Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trophy Gold, the Death Ziggurat that we're playing here on the Gauntlet calendar. Um, my name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him, and I'll be your GM this evening. Um, Before we get started, just a little bit about me. So I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for quite a long time. I started in the early '80s. I realized I'm wearing a D&D t-shirt. Yeah, I started playing D&D back in like the early 1980s, and I've been basically playing ever since. Played a lot of D&D of various editions. In the 90s, I mostly played GURPS and also Champions. The late 90s, I played a little bit of Amber Diceless role-playing, all the while interspersed with occasional bouts of other games. So, even when I was in high school, we played a little Star Frontiers, we played a little Gamma World. When I was in college, we played we dabbled in World of Darkness stuff. I played a little Traveler, a little Star Trek, little the Foss's Star Trek game. Played some D6 Star Wars. In like the early aughts, I got pulled back in to play this brand new D&D third edition, and that was really cool. So I played a lot of D&D third edition in the early aughts. Switched to 3.5, and then in 2010, we didn't really like the taste of D&D fourth edition, mainly because looking back now, we kind of didn't understand D&D fourth edition. So we switched to Pathfinder, and I was really, really, really into Pathfinder for many years. My last Pathfinder group broke up in like 2016, and I got pulled into by an acquaintance that was playing this new weird game called Dungeon World, and Dungeon World broke my brain in a good way. And that was my introduction to both Powered by the Apocalypse games and narrative-focused games, and I just kind of jumped into the deep end of the pool, and that's primarily what I've been playing for the past like 6 years now. Joined the Gauntlet in 2018, became a fairly active GM about a year later, and and here we are. Trophy Gold has rapidly become one of my favorite RPGs, and I love GMing this game. And I'm really happy to have some returning players and some brand new players for this game. So I've been yakking enough. Why don't we go around the table? Let's go clockwise in order of how you are appeared in my gallery view. So, Blake, would you say a couple of words about yourself?
G'day, I'm Blake, he, him. Been with the Gauntlet for about 3 years. Played about 10 sessions of Trophy Gold now. It's quite user-friendly and cooperative. It's good, but it's, there's enough detail to give you parameters, but not enough to sort of get information overload. It's good fantasy fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Death Ziggurat. Should be cool.
Thanks, Blake. Jesse, would you say a couple of words?
Hi, my name's Jesse, pronouns he, him. So I've been with the Gauntlet for a little over 3 years at this point, though I haven't had much of a chance to play over the last year and a half, so just by happenstance here. So excited to finally get into a game and get a chance to play something fun, and I've been really excited about Trophy Gold. I've not played it before, but was in on the Kickstarter, eagerly awaiting my physical copies. I read a little bit ahead today just to kind of get an idea where we're starting here. Just excited to do it. So thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Welcome aboard. Tim, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Tim. Pronouns are he, him. I've been with the Gauntlet for just a few months, but been playing tabletop role-playing games since high school. So for me, at that time, in the early aughts, would have been third edition D&D I started with, and I've just I just love role-playing games, so just kind of branching out. And Trophy Gold is a ton of fun. It's been really fun playing with Mike as the GM, and excited to welcome Josh and Jesse into the group. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tim. And Josh, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Josh. How long I've been a part of the Gauntlet. It's been a while. My friend David got me into playing Dungeon World, which you may know him from the Discern Realities podcast. So he knows a heck of a lot.
Oh, that David. Yes, I've not actually met him, but I've listened to the entire Discern Realities podcast.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of Dungeon World DMing on Gauntlet for a while, but haven't done much in the last year or so. So, but yeah, enjoy playing all the games, whatnot. So
very cool. Welcome. Glad to have everyone with us tonight. Trophy Gold. This will do a little CATS discussion first. So Trophy Gold. So CATS is an exercise, stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So Trophy Gold, the Death Ziggurat. So the concept of Trophy Gold is the player characters are desperate treasure hunters who are seeking fortunes in lost and forgotten and dangerous parts of the world. The game mechanics emphasize like the desperation of the characters. You've got debts, and the people to whom you owe these debts will be very unhappy if you don't pay these debts. So there's a mechanic in the game called burdens, and at the end of an adventure, you must meet your burdens, which means you must in the adventure collect a certain amount of gold equal to your burdens. That you then, at the end of the adventure, you just like erase that from the amount of gold you have, because you're giving that to your debtors to let you continue to not be in prison or not be dead in a ditch somewhere. If you come back from an incursion and you cannot meet your burdens, generally that means your character is retired and they will die penniless and alone, as Jason Cordova likes to say. So that's the concept of Trophy Gold. So you are, in that sense, Trophy Gold it owes a lot to OSR gaming in that you are, going into you're dungeon delving, or you're like delving into the wilderness, but the characters are not particularly heroic. They're there to do a job. A little bit about the Death Ziggurat. Again, this adventure is my own conversion of an adventure originally written for the OSR game Mörk Borg. So as such, it's kind of dark. It's pretty metal. And the Mörk Borg game itself is very grimdark, but I tend to try to play it as over the top as I can to like push it almost not quite, but close to self-parody, and try to try to have a laugh with it. It's the game that's based on the cover of a death metal album. So the Death Ziggurat, it's a wilderness point crawl that I've converted for Trophy Gold. Aim. Well, the aim is obviously to have fun. The aim of this game is, basically, so a big aim of the game Trophy Gold is it's the way the mechanics work. It's got a lot of press your luck mechanics. So, you're kind of constantly like, weighing risk versus reward. Do I want to keep, I'm pretty banged up, but I don't quite have enough money. Do we want to keep going to try to get more money, or is it time to turn tail and run? And so, but yeah, the aim is to tell a compelling story about these desperate treasure hunters and what they're exploring, and what they discover in addition, and what they discover and what they find. The tone of the game is, I try to keep it mostly serious, but that doesn't mean we won't have moments of levity and moments of fun. This isn't. I'm not going for grimdark here. At the same time, I would really appreciate it if we kind of keep the Monty Python jokes at a real minimum. I want to try to keep the tone mostly serious. The subject matter of this game does include some dark elements, and I mentioned this on the blurb on the calendar, but the Death Ziggurat includes themes of demon worship, death, undeath, and some body horror. So just some content warnings there. That is the cat's discussion for this game in a nutshell. Did anyone have any questions before we head on? Cool. So next thing I want to talk about is safety. We're a bunch of strangers or near strangers that are getting together over the internet to play a game, and the point of this whole exercise is to have fun. But when you play a role-playing game, there's when you play a role-playing game, we're pretending to be characters in a in a dark fantasy world, and we're going to be doing stuff, but all of us have different life experiences, and the experiences of one of us, and all of us may react differently to things. What might not be a big deal at all to you could be a major deal to me. Role-playing games are by their nature, they're inherently unsafe emotionally because we're putting our own emotions on the table, and they're there to and it's possible to unintentionally, or for those people who are playing in bad faith, intentionally, hurt each other. And so safety tools are a means to not eliminate, but try to mitigate try to mitigate some of the risk, because each of us individually is more important than this game we're playing. So in that regard, in that light, we're going to be playing with 3 safety tools. So the first one we're going to be playing with is called Open Table. I'm sorry, it's Open Door. Open Table, something else. Open Door means all of us are free to come and go as we please. Anyone can call a break for any reason at any time. Anyone can step away from the game for any reason at any time. And also, if we're playing and you come to the conclusion that this game isn't for me, it is absolutely okay to say, you know what, this game isn't for me. You guys keep playing, have fun, but I'm out. Absolutely 100% okay to do that. If you do need to step away for whatever reason, if you know you're not going to come back, it would be nice if you could tell us that you're not coming back. That way we're not waiting around for you. But if you need to step away for a few minutes, because I don't know, like your dog knocked over the trash can, or someone's knocking at your door, absolutely fine. And again, anyone can call a break at any time. Any questions on Open Door? Awesome. The next tool we're going to be using is called the X card. The X card is a tool that we invoke when anything that's happening in the game is making you feel uncomfortable. That could be something like you don't like the way another player is interacting with your character. If you don't like the way that interaction is going, you can invoke the X card. You can pretty much you can say X card. We're on video, so you can make an X gesture with your hands. Or if the term X card is hokey, you can just say, hey guys, hold on, we need to pause. It can be something that happens in character or out of character. Basically, if anything in the game is happening that's causing you discomfort, invoke the X card. That means we're going to pause the game. We'll just have a little discussion to find out what's going on, and what we can do to make it better for you. And whether that is, have a discussion about other player behavior, nip that in the bud. Or if it's something that's happening in the scene, we can either, fast forward past it, or alternatively, we can rewind the scene and replay it with a different element. Or if it's something dumb, like I shouldn't say dumb, forgive me for saying that. If it's something like I've introduced an NPC that's the name of someone that that's a name that you really don't want to deal with that name, whether that's the name of someone you really don't like at work, or a childhood bully that used to steal your lunch money, or an ex, it's absolutely okay to X card that, and that's fine. We'll just everything in this game is made up. We'll just change it. One other thing I do like to make clear about the X card is if we introduced something that you're like, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't really know about that, but okay, we'll just keep going. You say to yourself, and it comes up again. It is absolutely okay to X card something that's already been introduced in play. That's absolutely fine. And I do like to draw that out specifically because, because invoking the X card, we all acknowledge that trying to invoking the X card means that you're letting people know that there's something you don't like about this game, and I can understand how people might feel that that's they making a judgment call and you don't want to go. It's absolutely fine. Please use the X card if and when you need to. Are there any questions about the X card? Cool. The third tool we're going to be using is called Lines and Veils. With Lines and Veils, we're going to pull out specific topics that we know that each of you can pull out and draw attention to specific topics or subject matter that we know that are problematic and that we need to either not deal with at all or deal with very carefully. So a line is something that if the subject matter is lined, that means we're not going to include this in the game at all. We're just not. I'm not going to go there. You're not going to go there. I've got a few that I've pre-selected on our Lines and Veils sheet. I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause it after I discuss. I'm going to pause the recording after I describe what each of these mean. So a line is a subject matter that's not going to happen in the game at all. A veil is a subject that we can acknowledge happens in the world, but if it does happen, it will only ever happen off camera. It'll only happen to non-player characters, or we may only see signs that it may have happened. We may see signs that it happened, but it will not happen on camera. It will not happen to a player character. That could be bad things, or it could be good things. I usually put a veil, unless the game is about that sort of thing. I usually put a veil on sexual content, like consensual sexual content. If you're, want to have, if you want to have an intimate moment with another character, whether that's PC or an NPC, cool. We'll fade to black and come back the next morning. The tool I'm using also does have an ask first column, and that just means you don't necessarily want to veil it, but that's one that we want to have some you as a player might want to have some context out of game context around how we're introducing it before we actually introduce it. So you can also put something in an ask first column. So on our character keeper, there's an info and safety tab, and that has a list of common subjects that many people choose to line or veil. And I'm going to give everyone a few moments to look over that, and I am going to pause the recording right now. And we're back. We have collected lines and veils. I have them on a stick note that's now floating at the top of my screen so that I'm always aware of them. So cool. I do want to make one note on lines and veils. Every once in a while, somebody in their enthusiasm may introduce an element that was lined or veiled. If that happened, and I have been guilty of that I just forgot they were there, didn't look, introduced something that I absolutely should not have. If that happens, anyone who notices that, please immediately X card. Whoever, if it's me, I'll apologize and we'll move on. I try really hard not to violate these. It's very important not to violate them. Every once in a while, I mess up, and I think I've only done it once, but it still kind of haunts me. Anyway, I just wanted to toss that out there. Finally, one more other thing I did want to mention. It isn't exactly a safety tool, but this is probably where it goes best. That is, if for whatever reason my internet connection drops, or I look worriedly off to someone's side, take off my headphones and walk off the screen, and and I don't come back for 10 minutes, assume that something has happened and that the game is over. I'll try if I do have to step away for some kind of an emergency, I do have all your email addresses. I'll try to let you know, or I don't know if everyone's on the Slack. If you're on the Gauntlet Slack, I'll try to ping you there. But yeah, if the GM goes MIA for more than 10 minutes, assume the game is over. That has happened to me a couple of times. There was once a traffic accident in my neighborhood that knocked down a pole, which took out cable service. And since I have a cable modem, that meant I was knocked off the internet. Okay, that ends our safety discussion. Looking at time, it's about 8:35. Any questions about safety? Cool. I'm just going to note, like, going ahead in subsequent sessions, we're going to do a much more abbreviated version of the safety talk since we're all the same players. But I just want to make everything clear on our first session. Okay, I've talked about cats. We've done our safety discussion.
Should we introduce our characters? Or?
Yeah, why don't we do that? It looks like, looking at the character keeper, yeah, it looks like our new players have already created characters, which is awesome. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and introduce our characters? Once we've done that, I'm going to very briefly go over some of the basic rules of Trophy Gold, and then maybe after that we'll probably take a break. But yeah, Blake.
Yep.
Let's go say let's go left or right on the character keeper. So yeah, that would be you, Blake.
Okay, so I'm playing Nevin, him, former rat catcher, now locksmith. Daring adventurer? No, probably not daring. Cowering adventurer is probably more accurate. Yeah, he's searching for the swirling court so he can join the rat demon demigods that they are. Managed to survive a few sessions, but he's still not brave.
Cool. Tim, would you tell us about Ratung?
Yes, Ratung, Nevin's partner in crime in some previous incursions. Him. He is a self-styled sorcerer and alchemist, not very successful. He was actually expelled from an apprenticeship. And his drive is to publish his discoveries from ancient Kaldur, maybe to prove himself that he was actually a worthy apprentice. Yeah, he likes to use some rituals. He picked up a ritual called Scarecrow in the last incursion, so that's fun. He has been sending a Scarecrow every so often to attack the hunter, and from our last incursion, that's just we'll just say that's happening. The hunter can take care of himself, but I just want to mess with him. Yeah, and I think he kind of likes to get into trouble. And yeah, we'll see what kind of trouble he gets into this time.
Very cool. Josh, would you tell us about Kel?
All right, Kel, he's a blacksmith. I picture him as fairly old, been doing it for a while. His background is reformed thug, so I imagine, back in the day he was just a street thug or whatever, and his drive is restore the Temple of Tenahalt. I'm not sure how to say that. I figure, it's a temple, so I assume it's some kind of god. So I'm thinking maybe he found something in this god, and that's what reformed him. And yeah, that's about it for him. It's
very cool. Thank you.
Trying to get the gold he needs to work on that restoration.
Fantastic. And Jesse, would you tell us about Orlin?
Sure. Orlin, he, him pronouns, is an oracle, background of a hapless peddler. So I I rolled all this randomly. I'm imagining the hapless peddler. I think he was selling fake religious relics, and the local church did not take kindly to that. I imagine if there was like an introductory, like montage or something like that, he'd be snatched up by a bunch of church people, dragged to a basement. Then you'd probably pan away, maybe hear like screams of horror and pain. So yeah, I think the oracle part was part of whatever was done to him there. So at this point, I believe he owes a ton of money, blood, sweat, and tears to the church, and is out adventuring to try and make that happen. His drive is to earn the respect of the governor of Fort Durin. I imagine he fell in love with the governor's daughter. So I think, I think that's his overarching long-term goal there.
Very cool. Okay, we have our cast of characters. So let's talk a little bit about the rules. So in Trophy Gold, again, this game is a conversation, and there is a dice mechanic. Actually, there are several dice mechanics that will be in play that determine basically who gets to say what's going on in the world. Sometimes it's going to be me, sometimes it's going to be you, sometimes it's going to be the other players. I'm going to talk about the two most common kinds of roles in the game. The first role is called the hunt role. So in the hunt role, your character is exploring the world, asking questions about the world, maybe asking questions about a person. Anytime you're interacting with the world to try to get more information or to find stuff or to learn things, that'll be a hunt role. And the hunt role is abstract. And the way the hunt role works, Trophy uses 6-sided dice, but uses dice of 2 different colors, generally referred to as dark dice and light dice. And generally the rolling dark dice usually means that there's some implications or repercussions. So in the hunt roll, you're only ever rolling light dice. And in general, when we're rolling, we're going to be assembling a small pool of dice. You're going to roll them all together, and you're going to be looking at the highest number rolled. It's like Fortune in the Dark games in that regard. So you're going to be so for a hunt roll, you're going to be rolling either 1 or 2 dice. You get a die for just asking questions about the world. You can get a second die if for what you're doing you have an appropriate skill, you have an appropriate piece of equipment, or you can tell us how you are exploiting the environment in a particular way to help you. So if you have any one of those things, you get a second die. And then we roll the die, and then you roll the dice. With a hunt roll, all that you are guaranteed on a successful hunt roll is basically it's an abstract currency called a hunt token. So if you get a 6, so a success on a hunt roll is a 4, 5, or a 6 is a success, and you will get a token for that. If you get a 6, you get a token. If you get a 4 or a 5, you get a token, but you also encounter something terrible. If you get a 2 or a 3, you encounter something terrible. And if your highest number is a 1, you lose all of your accrued tokens to that point, and you encounter something terrible. Now, something terrible could be a monster, could be a trap, it could be, or it just could be like a foreboding sign that something is bad, or it could just be, sign that something happened in the past. Like, you find like something terrible could be you find, like the bloody remains of someone who was attacked by a creature. Well, that's telling you that 1, there's a creature nearby, and 2, this creature can kill people. Or, it could be that, oh, well, you look up and, there's a monster on the ceiling that drops down on you. That could be something terrible. The something terrible is subjective. This isn't actually in the rules, but the way the author tends to write this is the lower your roll on your hunt roll, the more terrible it is. So the way he usually runs it is, like a 1 means it's a monster or it's a potentially deadly trap. Whereas if it's a 5, the something terrible is, a sign of something, or you find evidence that something terrible happened in the past or something like that. I don't always play that way, but that I kind of do use like how poor the roll was to kind of inform just how terrible the terrible thing it is that you encounter. So hunt tokens. Two other things. Anyway, hunt tokens. So when you accrue hunt tokens, you can use those to do basically 2 things. 1, at any time, you can trade in a hunt token to declare that you found a piece of treasure that's worth 1 gold. So, like, for example, if you were searching the bedroom of an abandoned cabin, and you make your hunt roll and you get a token. You get a success, like, okay, well, you find, okay, yeah, you poke around the bed. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be anywhere, but anything there, but you find a token. You can then say, well, actually, I want to find a piece of treasure. And you can say, actually, I want to trade in a token to find something. And then either I'll describe a piece of treasure that you find, or, I might say that, yeah, you find something. What do you find? And I might toss it back to you. The way the rules work, the GM usually tells you what they're going to find. But sometimes it might be more interesting for me to let you tell what it is. The other thing that you can do with hunt tokens is you and the other players can pool 3 tokens to solve the set. And I'll talk about sets in a moment. So that's a way that you can basically progress through the adventure without actually having to do the thing. And I'll talk about set structure in a moment. That's the hunt roll. The other most common roll that we're going to be doing is called the risk roll. And we use the risk roll whenever you're doing something that is got a question to talk about sets. Would you like me to talk about sets before we talk about risk roll, or?
It was just kind of a pun,
Like,
let's talk about sex, except let's talk about sets.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry. It's been a long day.
Blake's just shaking his head at me right now, so.
So the risk roll. We use the risk roll whenever you're doing something risky. So if you want to, however, not everything that's risky necessarily warrants a risk roll. If failure would be interesting, then I'll call for a risk roll. If you want to just climb the wall, okay, fine, you climb the wall. If you want to climb the wall, if you want to climb the wall that's, if you want to climb the wall that's, if you want to climb the wall that's near a lava pit, or that's 400, or if you want to climb a 400-foot wall, yeah, that's probably going to be a risk roll. So basically, anytime you're doing something risky, we'll do a risk roll. And for this, again, you're going to be assembling a small pool of dice. You can take 1 light die if you have an appropriate skill for what you want to do, or if you have an appropriate piece of equipment, or again, if you're able to, or if you can make a reasonable argument as to why you're exploiting the environment to help you in some way. So any of those things can get you 1 light die. This game also borrows the Devil's Bargain mechanic from Blades in the Dark, so it works pretty much the same way. If you are willing to accept a Devil's Bargain, you can get a 2nd light die. So a Devil's Bargain is something that we're going to introduce to the fiction that's going to happen no matter what of the result of the roll is. And generally with a Devil's Bargain, you would preface it by saying, no matter what, comma, Devil's Bargain. And finally, if you are willing to risk body and mind, or what you're doing is inherently very, very dangerous, you can either choose to add, or the GM may require that you add a dark die. So you assemble your pool of dice. You then tell us what you are hoping to accomplish. And then, the GM is going to ask you, what are you afraid will happen if this goes wrong? So basically, that's establishing the stakes before you actually roll. And if you don't like the stakes, you can back down before you actually make the roll. So for example, in that situation where, you know, you're climbing that 400-foot wall, what's the worst that can happen? Well, you know, the worst that can happen is you could fall 400 feet to your death. That could be a valid stake. Depending on what you're doing, we could, I mean, not very often, but it could be that the stakes are instant death. In which case you might want to reconsider or not. Again, roll. We then roll the dice and we look at the highest number that you rolled. And if it's 6, it's a full, and it's looking back to like basically powered by the looking back at powered by the apocalypse. If you get a 6, that's a full success. If you get a 4 or a 5, that is, that is a success with a complication. If you get a 1, 2, or a 3, that is either a failure or that is a Pyrrhic, or that is a success with very great cost. Again, it's going to depend on, basically we're going to like what the failure means is going to depend on like what we've set as stakes and what makes appropriate in the fiction. But yeah, basically a 6 is full success, a 4 or 5 is a success with complication, and a 1, 2, or 3 is a miss, or which in trophy is usually a failure, although not necessarily. The dark die. Your character has a stat called Ruin. That's sort of your hit points. The higher your ruin is, the closer you are to death or being lost to the wilderness. Your max, when you hit 6 ruin, your character is out of the action, and usually that means dead, or it might mean that you have succumbed to the forces of the forest. So if you're at 5 ruin, if you take 1 more hit, you're basically dead. Your starting ruin depends on how many rituals you know, and your ruin can never go below your starting ruin. So everyone starts at 1 ruin. For every ritual you know, your starting ruin increases by 1. So if you start play with 2 rituals, your starting ruin is at 3. And again, 5 is generally the max you can have while you're still playing. And if you get to 6, basically it means death. So back to the risk roll. When you make a risk roll that includes a dark die, and the dark die comes up as the highest number, that still counts in terms of like the success or failure for the roll. But when the high roll, if the highest number on your risk roll is on a dark die, or if it is a dark die tied with a light die, you then must compare the number rolled on the dark die to your current ruin. If that number is higher than your current ruin, your ruin increases by 1. And we describe how this act has either injured your body or corrupted your body, or damaged your mind or psyche. If you roll a risk roll and you don't like the result, and the highest number rolled was not a dark die, you may choose to add a dark die and re-roll, and hope you get a better result. If you don't like that result, you can add another dark die and re-roll. You can keep doing that until either you like the result or the highest number rolled is a dark die. If the highest number rolled is a dark die, or it's tied or the highest number is a dark die and a light die tied, you can't re-roll. You have to sit with that. And that's one of those like risk versus reward mechanics that are in the game. It increases your odds of success, but it also increases your odds that you're going to take a ruin hit. One other role I'm going to talk about briefly, and I'll describe it in full when it actually happens in game, is the combat role. And that's that's the combat system of this game. It's also got kind of a risk versus reward thing. I will say, in order to engage in a combat role, you have to have a weapon. And if you are hit in a combat role, that will affect your ruin. But if you have a piece of armor, you can mark the armor to avoid taking the hit in that particular round of combat. So, if you've got so if you say your character has a shield, and you take a hit in combat, you can mark your shield to say that my shield absorbed the blow, and will tell us what that looks like. That means you avoid the ruin of that round, but that means that armor is no longer usable until you go back to town to have it repaired. Having combat equipment increases your initial burdens. Again, burdens are the amount of gold you must come back to town with in order to meet your debts. So, Ratung's up to 5 burdens, so he's got to come back with at least 5 gold, or else his debtors are going to catch him. Those are the rules of the game in a nutshell. If they didn't make a lot of sense, we'll talk about them more when they actually come up and play. I know I didn't really discuss Devil's Bargains too much now, but we'll have that discussion for the first risk roll. Were there any questions about the rules at this point? And again, I know I threw a lot at you, but it becomes much clearer once we actually start using them.
Well, Mike, let's talk about sets.
Oh yeah, sets. So
I'm
trophy
gonna just
is
get so much mileage out of that pun. I'm not gonna stop.
Okay, so a set. Trophy is the game trophy. So trophy gold write-ups. In some ways, they're sort of like a deconstruction of a traditional like OSR or traditional traditional role-playing game module. All of the elements of a traditional D&D module are there, but they're presented in a different order. For starts, there generally isn't a map. Things are pretty much only described, theater of the mind. So a set is an area, or it's an area, or it's a region, or it's a group, or it could even just be a room. It's sort of like an encounter area or a group of encounter areas that share a theme. When you enter a set, I will tell you the name of the set, and I will also tell you what the goal of solving the set is. In fact, I'll like the first set of the game, which is where you're going to start out. The set will be called The Ridge, and the goal for the set is to find a way into the Depression. Now, when I tell you the set goal, it may not be immediately obvious what that even means, but we'll figure that. But your characters will definitely figure that out in play. And there's basically 2 ways to solve the set. One is solving the set basically involves doing a thing. And trophy is kind of very like old school in a way, where there's no perception check that means you find the traps. There's no investigate roll that means you find the clues. Like if there's so basically, if there's a secret compartment on the back of the idol, and that like pushing the eyes of the idol causes the thing to open, that'll be spelled out in the incursion. And if you do the thing, then there's no roll. It just, you just get it. If you do something close to the thing, if you do something pretty close to the thing, I may call for a hunt roll. And on a successful hunt roll, I might then tell you that in addition to the token, you did the thing. So what you did was maybe not exactly what it said, but it was pretty close. Sometimes a set goal might be defeat an opponent, in which case you might need to either defeat them in combat or figure out some way to trick them into jumping into a bottomless pit or what have you. It's not necessarily immediately obvious, but there is a way to solve the set by actually interacting and doing traditional role play, making risk rolls, making hunt rolls, making combat rolls. Or you can at any time, if you can pull 3 hunt tokens, you can solve the set. In which case, we'll narrate what you do to solve the set to move on to the next one. Some sets.
I kind of see that as instead of sort of looking at each macro thing you do, it's kind of a montage. You zoom out and the music plays while there's a repeated climbing, lots of climbing, or running across New Zealand for 40 minutes, or searching, and it's a zoomed out repeat
Exactly.
thing.
That's exactly it. I mean, it'd be like solving the set with hunt tokens. That'd be like instead of like to make a video game analogy, that would be invoking a cutscene to bring you to the next scene, rather than you just doing the interaction to work your way through it. There's more risk reward. In general, like one of the quote system mastery thing about trophy is it's generally best to solve the sets by actually interacting and solving the sets early, and then using your tokens to solve them later, just because as you progress through the incursion, your characters will be accruing ruin, and there's not a lot of healing in this game. There's not going to be there aren't clerics that are cast. There aren't clerics with staff of healing. Every once in a while, you might find a potion of healing or some other magical effect that if you consume it, it'll heal a ruin. But those are kind of on the rare side. Those are kind of few and far between. So a set is going to generally have 2 or more what are called props, and those are like specific things in the set that have properties, may have things that you're supposed to do or interact with. I may or may not call them out as props, but it's usually pretty obvious what's a prop and what's just window dressing. Again, it'll make a little more sense once we actually get through a couple of sets. Are there any other questions at this point? Okay, I've got 1 minute after the hour. We've done a lot of talking and not a lot of playing yet. So why don't we take a 5-minute break? Let's come back. I've got 1 minute after. Why don't we come at 6 minutes after? We'll start up and we will actually start playing. Awesome. Pausing the recording, and I'll be back in 5. And we are back. All right. So I guess it is time to get started. One other quick thing I forgot to mention about the rules, and that is about your character sheet. Backpack equipment. So you pick a backpack, and it's you pick one of the starting backpacks, and it's got 3 items that are generally have a theme. So you select one, you plug them in. Your backpack actually has 6 slots. And 3 of those slots are undetermined until you decide to root through your backpack and find something. So basically at any time you can say that I root through my backpack and try to find something, and it's got a list of standard equipment in there. If you want something that's kind of standard but isn't on the list, tell us what you're looking for, and if it isn't really weird, we can absolutely have it. Like character in a previous trophy game I ran wanted to have like a collection, wanted to have like a bunch of clean handkerchiefs. Sure. I think that was the only piece of in your and on your adventure, you may sometimes find other equipment, and that goes into your found equipment. Those don't actually take a backpack slot. That's just stuff that you find and you can pick up and carry around with you. Yeah. Well, I'll talk a little bit about treasure once we actually start acquiring some. Okay. So this adventure has one of the best introductions, one of the best and most to the point introductions that I have seen in a very long time. I am going to read the boxed text. Find the Ziggurat and stop the demon from laying waste to our world before the true time comes. So said the priests as they hired you to investigate hints of a demon escaping her Ziggurat prison deep within the northern wastes. The priests also mentioned that cryptic scrolls say that the Ziggurat is, quote, hidden in another realm, and that her priests carry keys. Their generous pay, they guarantee 2 gold each upon success of your mission, have kept you from asking too many questions, and you quickly headed off to the north. I am going to say, for the sake of argument, that at this point, your characters like know each other and at least mostly trust each other, because you've been traveling through the you've been traveling to the Northlands and through the northern wastes. I'm going to say it's been, maybe a week and a half. So you've had, even if you didn't know each other terribly well before you were assembled for this mission, you've come to know each other pretty well at this point. We may play some downtime scenes at some point where we can fill in what happened and what your relationships are, but the rest we'll figure out in play. So we are at the first set. The first set is called The Ridge. The set goal is to find a way into the depression. A sparse boreal forest steeped in fog and snow surrounds this ridge for miles in every direction. The ridge itself, it rises up a little bit, and then there's a sheer cliff that drops 150 to 300 feet down to a mostly flat and barren depression that's about 4 miles long and 2 miles wide. The depression seems almost as if an immense fist punched into the ground, causing a crater. So looking down, so it is you are in the frozen Northlands. It is cold, so I'm just going to say that you all have winter appropriate gear. Your bedrolls are warm enough. So just it is cold. The skies are gray. It's been snowing off and on. But most of the land around here is a boreal forest. So conifers and other pine trees primarily. There's not a lot of broadleaf trees around here. And there's you've seen signs of normal wildlife, but until you got to this place has a sense of wrongness. So looking down into the depression, you catch glimpses. So it's there's some snow, so you can't see lots of details. Looking down into the depression, you can see that. So you're on the south side of this depression, looking north. It's about 4 miles long. It's about 2 miles wide, and it's several hundred feet down from where you're standing down. There's a river there's a small river or large creek, you can't quite tell. It does flow from the west into the depression. And so from where you're standing, maybe half a mile off to the west, you do see this waterfall that's cascading down the side of the cliff, and it forms a small lake down there that you're probably guessing is frozen over. In the distance, you can see signs of what look like ruins, like sparsely ruins of buildings. You can see a couple of the ruins seem to be a bit larger than the others. You probably need to explore them more to know more details. There looks to be an encampment of some sort down there. You see some of you see smoke from campfires and what are probably tents. That's maybe a mile or two off. But the thing that really draws your attention, on the on the far side of the depression from where you are, there is a whirlwind, like a tornado-like funnel of clouds that are sickly gray and purplish that are swirling around. Not so like a tornado. It's not like whipping. It's almost like it's slowly turning. It's a vast funnel cloud that reaches high into the sky and is like coming down into, you really can't see from where you're standing because whatever it's going into is shrouded in mist. And that is what you see. And I'm going to ask that ultimate GM question that I'll be asking a lot. What do you do?
I'd actually like to try and dig under the snow and see if there's like some long dead grass under there that I can start pulling out. I'm looking for something I can stuff a scarecrow with at some point.
Ah, okay. Well, that would indeed be a hunt roll.
Does that help me go through the snow?
So to our two new players, I've got a link. If you go to the info and safety tab, there is a link to the Gauntlet Community Gaming Discord server. We're using that as our dice roll. Are folks able to access that? That should be going to Game Room T for Trophy. We're gonna be using a trophy dice spot that Mads Maynad wrote. If you're having trouble accessing that, if you're not on the server, I can send you. I can pop an invite link into the chat window. Okay, if you don't have access, I'm popping a Discord invite link into the. Oh, hold on. Let's try that again. I only sent that straight to Tim. Okay, that went to everyone. So that's a Discord link to the Gauntlet Community Gaming server. So that should get you in. I don't think there's any extra. Security that you need to get to the dice roller. And do people have access to the dice roller? If you've got it, once you're in, once you're in Game Room T for Trophy on that Discord server, give me a thumbs up. Josh, are you still having trouble getting there?
I haven't been on Discord in forever, so I've got to figure out my password and whatnot.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I don't usually use Discord for this sort of thing, but this for Trophy. It's got a great dice spot. It's got all the rolls pre-programmed, so it just makes it a lot easier to play.
Nevin also, should we make our way down to the ruins? Good chance of treasure there.
Well, you do have to figure out how, because these are sheer cliffs, and they're like, from where you're standing, it's at least 200, right, probably closer to 300 feet down, and these are sheer jagged cliffs.
All right, so I'll look around for ways down.
Okay.
Or ways across. Either way, somewhere to get out of where this bit.
Okay, so Tim, why don't you? So let's see. We were doing a hunt roll to try to find some grass. Hop over to the characters. So you get a light die for just poking around. Do you have a skill or piece of equipment that you think would help you here?
I would imagine I would take out my pickaxe and turn it so that it's, I'm using like the long edge of it and like scraping the snow away to see if there's if some tall grasses were growing here in.
Got it. Tall grasses here growing in, growing in Yeah. I'm imagining this is like not extreme northern Canada, but this is like northern Canada.
Right. So I'm looking for, well, dead grass is what I'm after anyhow. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'll let you use the pickaxe, sure. So why don't you do a hunt 2 and we'll see what we get. You get a token.
More importantly, do I also get dry
I'm going to
grass?
say with a 6, you get some grass. There's not a lot of. I mean, this is a forest, so there's not a ton of grass. I'm going to say that you find some. You do find some plants. What you do find, you find a lot of pine needles. But I'm going to say, yeah, you find a patch of grass that you're able to, maybe there was maybe you found a place where the like one of the trees fell over and like last summer some grass grew up. You're not finding tons and tons. This might not be enough to like feed a horse, but yeah, you're able to get some grass.
Awesome.
Nevin, you said you were looking, so you're poking around looking for a way down, or are you looking around?
Yep.
I mean, or are you like searching around up here first, or to see if there's anything,
Yeah.
looking to
Yeah,
see if there's
just along
anything
the
up
edge,
here,
see
or
if I can
look along the
see
edge. Okay,
caves or bridges or anything. And
got it.
um,
Sure. Yeah, I think that's going to be another hunt roll to see what you turn up. Do you have any skills or a piece of equipment that would help you in your search for a way down?
possibly no. The ones I've got would probably help getting down, but not just looking for ways down. No.
Okay. Well, why don't you do a hunt 1 and we'll see what we get.
Sweet.
All right.
All right, bring it on. I've got acrobatics, so falling is on the table.
As you are, so I'm imagining that you're kind of like you've kind of like left the. Correct me if I'm taking too much narrative control here. Did you like go away from the rest of the group while you were looking, or was everyone sticking by?
Oh, I said I'm trying to look for a way down, and then I just kind of look along the edge. So
got it. So
I might
you're
be
like
10
walking along.
meters
So
away.
you're like walking along the edge. So as you're walking along the ledge, you realize at one point that your companions aren't actually with you right now, which is doubly worrying because you hear a voice say, "You there, who are you?" Kel, what are you doing? You don't hear this, by the way.
I think, I'm generally looking for a way down, and I'm looking for anywhere where the cliff, seems to have a more broken surface, or somewhere, where there's handholds. But I'm also thinking, I've got that grappling hook and quite a bit of rope, and
Okay.
I'm sure some other people have rope too. So I'm thinking, that's a possibility. So
Okay.
I'm just kind of mostly checking for places where it looks good to go down, and maybe a good place to put that grappling hook.
Okay. Nice. So we're gonna do a pool of dice here. You're getting one. So this is going to be another hunt roll. You're going to get 1 die for asking questions about the world, and you are. For your second, you get a second die for using a piece of an equipment. And I'm going to say grappling. I'm going to say your grappling hook and rope. I'm going to say that's. I'm going to say that definitely counts. So why don't you do a hunt 2? Are you on the dice spot yet, or are you still working on it?
Not yet. I'm gonna use I've got a roll for your party link up real quick, and I'll use that for this one.
That works. Roll for your party totally works. In which case, go ahead and roll. Or even if you've got like actual dice, if you want to roll dice on your desk, that is absolutely fine. We totally trust you.
Yeah. So
So you're going to want to roll basically 2d6. You don't have to add them, and just tell us what the highest number you rolled are on 2d6.
Are they just 2 light die?
Yep, that's going to be 2 light dice.
I got a 6 and a 4.
Okay. So you get a hunt token. So go ahead and mark a hunt token on your character sheet. And I'm going to say that yeah, you find a good place to set your grappling hook. It looks like this is probably, you know, you're a few hundred yards from where you first found where you first encountered this ridge, but it looks like the ground here sloped down a little bit. So looks like it's probably only about, your rope doesn't make it quite all the way down to the bottom, but if someone else has rope, you could probably tie that onto the other. Looks like it's about 150 feet down here. You've only got about 120 feet of rope. But yeah, I think you have probably found the best way down.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I figure I start, attaching my rope to the grappling hook, and I kind of look around to the others. Anyone else got any more rope?
Orlin, what are you doing?
I think Orlin had, everyone's kind of busy looking around. Orlin had kind of sat down on the edge of this little, just as we're looking down there, and had started rooting around in his pack. I think it was kind of one of these things where, you see the activity happening in the background or whatnot. He's rooting around. He's like, where is it? I can't. He's just like digging through. And then I think he probably hears the call for rope and says, kind of maybe gets a look like, that wasn't quite what he was looking for in his pack, but he will absolutely pull out some rope, and I'll add that to my one of my equipment.
Yeah, go ahead and
slots here.
Yeah, go ahead and put rope in your slot.
Yeah, so I very clearly put a small, pouch in, leather pouch back in, pull out the rope and walk over and say, I think I have some rope that might help.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and pull down to rope on your first backpack slot. There you go. Awesome. So if you're going to offer the rope to Kel, that certainly makes more than enough to get to the bottom. So it looks like you've got a way. It looks like you've got a way down. Going to turn back to Nevin. A person, steps out of the trees. This person is wearing like red robes. They're fur lined. Their head and their face is their head is shaved. You can't tell if it's a man or a woman really. Their head is shaved, and their bald head and their face are covered with like weird sigil tattoos. And their robes are trimmed with fur, and it looks like they're wearing fur under them. And the person says, "You there, who are you? And what are you doing here?"
I'll gladly say, I'm the famous treasure hunter, Ratung. I heard there was treasure here.
Treasure, you say? There are many things here that have attracted our attention, but treasure is the least of our worries. Why are you really here? They make a couple of steps toward you. Looks like their hand is on the hilt of a dagger that's strapped to their hip.
Sweet. How close are we to the edge of the cliff?
You're actually pretty close to the edge. I mean, it'd just be like from where you are, it'd just be, like a hop and a skip. Granted, it's like 200 feet down, and I mean, it's not completely vertical, but it's like sheer and jagged, and you really don't want to bounce off of those rocks a couple of times.
So who is we? You only seem to be one person here, and I'm still talking loudly.
The person responds, "We have been attracted by the signs of what is to come. You see, this is where death shall enter the world, and we shall be here to greet it."
Right.
I'm going to say at this point, now that you see kind of in the direction where they were, it looks like they're. You didn't see it. You didn't really see it before because either the wind was blowing it away or there was too much snow falling. You can now see what looks like the signs of campfire smoke coming from deeper in the woods.
Mm.
Are you really here to? Are you here to welcome the final return of death to the world?
I'll say, I am here to bring you death, and I try to stab him.
Yes.
Actually,
Okay.
I'll reverse that last bit. I'm going to try and flip it because I've got acrobatics. I'm going to try and flip him over so he goes down the cliff.
Oh, you're going to try to throw him over the cliff. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I think that is then going to be a risk roll as opposed to a combat roll. Very cool. So let's start the stakes here. So obviously, so you're going to try to throw him over the edge of the cliff.
Yep.
Awesome. That seems to be your goal.
What could go wrong? Well,
what could go wrong here?
And throw me down. Yep.
That is definitely a stake. That is definitely stakes. Yeah, he could pull you down. Like even if you're successful, he could try to pull you down with him, and that might be bad. So you're clearly using acrobatics, so you're going to get a light die from your skill. Devil's Bargain. Here's a devil. So I didn't really explain to our new players. I didn't really explain Devil's Bargains. If you've played Blades in the Dark, it's basically that mechanic. But if you haven't, so Devil's Bargain is a new piece that we're going to add to the fiction that's going to happen regardless of the result of the die roll. It may be directly related to the action, or it could be something else completely different. But we preface it by no matter what, this happens. And the example I like to use is, you're doing you need to jump over a chasm that's just, you need to jump over kind of a wide chasm. A Devil's Bargain might be, no matter what, I drop my sword into the chasm. Because that means, again, regardless of success or failure on jumping over on whether or not your character successfully jumps over makes the jump, they drop their sword, and now and their sword's going to be at the bottom of the chasm regardless. A bad Devil's Bargain there would be I'm hanging on the edge of the cliff on the far side. That's not really a Devil's Bargain because that's actually defining an outcome for the actual roll. So that's kind of the difference. So Devil's Bargains are a thing we're going to add to the fiction no matter what. The other thing about Devil's Bargains is I can add a Devil's Bargain. Other players can add a Devil's Bargain. And it is the player who's making the roll who gets to choose which of those bargains they want to pick, or even make a counter offer if you want to say that, well, I'll take that Devil's Bargain if, and we can kind of change the fiction. And then if you accept the Devil's Bargain, you get the other die. So
you got one, Tim? Come at me.
So the Devil's Bargain. So I was going to say the Devil's Bargain I am going to offer is this fight attracts the attention of whoever else is at that campsite.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So now I'm going to think again for about a different one.
Josh, you got one?
Oh, I kind of had one, and then it kind of got taken. So I'm thinking about rewording it or changing it a little.
Okay, I have one. No matter what, somehow this guy is going to survive. So whether you flip him off or not, at the end of it, he's still going to be alive.
Okay.
That's kind of cool. Oh, the other thing about Devil's Bargain is that the GM does retain the right to say, that's not. I don't exercise it very often, but if it's like, if the GM thinks it's weak sauce, I can say that.
Can I just add to mine? I mean, maybe this is an obvious subtext, but like he's out to get you, right? Whether or not that he's out to get you from the bottom of the cliff or still with you.
I think that goes without saying. If you try to throw someone off the edge of a cliff, they're not going to like you very much.
Well, I mean, this guy's clearly insane, so I'm just going to say he has enough sanity to owe Nevin a debt if this happens.
Oh, you're talking about me. All right. Any other ones on the table?
What, it gets the attention of someone or something down at the bottom.
Okay.
That is also cool. Jesse, you have anything you want to offer?
Honestly, most of the bases have been covered as far as like what I could think of right off the top of my head early on here. Yeah,
absolutely fine. So Blake, any of those that you wish to pick?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the someone down the bottom. Someone knows we're coming, or something knows we're coming.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. So, and I think I am going to impose, I think it is clear you are actually endangering your body by basically engaging this guy in grappling. So I'm going to require that you include a dark die on this.
Okay, so 2-1.
So yeah, let's do a risk 2-1. Nice.
Bam. That was
wow. That could not have gone better.
I was going to say it's the best possible result.
That is the best possible result on a risk roll.
It's all downhill from here.
You peaked early. Nowhere to go from here but down. As does the cultist. Why don't you go ahead and tell us? Why don't you go ahead and describe how you throw this guy off the cliff?
Yeah, so I'm like, I think I see the signs of death, and when he looks, I kind of grab him and flip him over the top of me, and he bounces all the way down. It's just a long series of injuries. I don't know if he died, but he's going to be in a lot of pain and very, very pissed off. But that's what I'm here for.
Well, you have rid yourself of the threat of the immediate threat of some kind of deranged cultist. So
he thinks I'm Rotung.
That was awesome. Yeah, I thought we were going to go to a combat roll, but yeah, I thought this was more fun. The downside of doing this is you don't have a body to loot, but that's okay. The rest of you definitely
we'll
hear
it on the way down.
The rest of you have heard the sounds of, you've heard the sounds of a struggle and the sound of somebody that does not sound like Nevin, like screaming as they're screaming and bouncing off rocks as they apparently have fallen down the side of this cliff. What do y'all do?
Okay, I kind of look up from where I'm working on the rope and grappling hook, and I'm just like, oh boy, what was that?
I think I pay no mind to like that. I just saw somebody fall off a cliff. I just am kind of like walking over to Nevin with my handfuls of dried grass and brown pine needles, and I'm just like, Nevin, look, this would make a great scarecrow.
Yeah, I just give him the thumbs up and nod. Make the way back to the others.
Okay, I'm going to say that I'm going to say at this point you have reconvened near where Kel has set a grappling hook onto. I'm going to say that like there's like a big heavy like root of a pine tree that was kind of like right near the edge of the cliff, and that was a great place to stick your grappling hook. It looks really solid. You've thrown the rope down. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a relatively easy belay down here.
I'll say, do you want me to go first or someone else want to go first?
Always Nevin first.
He's just
Anybody
getting a
want to
knife.
Explain what that yell was.
Oh, yeah, some weird guy tried to get some money out of me. I didn't like him, so he said death is coming, and he's pointing to the clouds and birds flying backwards and stuff. I don't think he was all there, so it's good.
He's definitely not all there anymore.
So I'm going to say that if the four of you I'm going to say the four of you can at this point safely descend. And that does resolve the first set. You are now in the depression. If you want to, do. How about we just go around the table and each of you? Why don't each of you describe? Like how you belay down. How about like a minor difficulty that you encountered and how you overcame it on your belay down belay down this this 100 feet down this cliff. Tim, would you mind? Would you like to start on that?
Sure. Yeah, I think Ratsung's quite clumsy, so I think he keeps on like kind of like slipping and like sliding to almost the point of like a free fall, and then just like clinging like for dear life and like rope burning his hands, and then like that's kind of how he kind of goes and fits and starts all the way down the side.
Nice. Josh, same question to you.
I think Kel, he probably went last going down. Thinking with, at least as far as I see it, he's probably the biggest, heaviest one. So kind of waited for everyone else to get down. And then, as he was going down, something like a snake or something came out of one of the rocks and, almost got him, but he, like grabbed it and just like threw it down.
Cool. Blake, why don't you describe how Nevin makes it down?
I think he's just come like he's sort of walking down the cliff pretty casually, but he hasn't done up his pack, so his bag of marbles fall out and they spill all over the place, and he has to keep stopping and pick them up all the way down.
That sounds very Nevin. And Jesse, how does Orlin make it down?
Yeah, Orlin was making his way down pretty steadily, not really much problem, taking his time, but about halfway down, a little bit before halfway down, like maybe there's like, a root, like massive roots coming out of the side of the cliff, and he spies like a bird skull, like sun-bleached bird skull, and this is the first time you maybe get a little animation out of his face, and just eyes go wide, reaches for it, just in doing so, ends up slipping, falls, starts to come down, and I think the like strap of his pack catches on the knot, of the two ropes right in the middle there. Orlin doesn't look concerned. You don't actually get like fright or a yelp out of him. He just looks disappointed and looks up longingly at the that roots and the little bird skull, and then just kind of untangles himself from the rope and starts climbing down the rest of the way.
Okay, fantastic. All right, you've all made it down more or less safe and sound. You're at the you're at the bottom of this cliff. So you're in a new set. The set is called the Depression. The set goal for the depression is to find Sarku's lair. So, now as you are,
How close to the ruins and the camp are we at this point? Is one closer than the other, or what else?
hold on a moment. There actually is a player's map for this for the Mörk Borg thing. I'm just trying to get a sense of scale here. You're about equidistant to the so the ruins are probably maybe a mile and a half north of where you are. So the frozen lake is probably about half a mile to the north, half a mile northwest of where you are. And that encampment is probably about the same distance, but to the northeast. So from where you're standing with your back to the wall looking north, you got the ruins that are basically ahead of you. You've got the lake that's ahead of you, but to your left, and that encampment that you can still see a little, you can see some wisps of smoke. That's ahead of you and to the right. So so where you are, so now that you're at the bottom here, the depression is a mostly flat expanse surrounded by sheer cliffs on all sides. The depression is it's more or less a crater that's roughly oblong or perhaps sort of rectangular. The ground down here is mostly flat. It's pretty rocky. Scrubby pine, like scrubby pines grow sparsely down here. So there's not a lot of vegetation, but there is some. It looks like the ground is because it's in a depression that doesn't get tons of sun, so the plants don't do super well, and the ground is very rocky. There's not a lot of soil down here. It's also very, very cold down here. It's like as you look over the the expanse of this depression before you, a frigid wind just blows through from the north, and it just seems to suddenly get much colder. So
I'll say do people think we should go, the lake, the camp, the ruins? Any preferences, ideas?
Oh, and also from down here, you can still see that giant whirlwind, like far to the north on like the other side of where the ruins are. Basically on the opposite side of the depression from where you are, there's that whirlwind of like purple and gray clouds. It's just kind of like slowly spinning out. Again, it looks sort of like a tornado, but a tornado that's spinning in slow motion.
I'm good with anything, but if I had to cast a vote, I'd say ruins.
And that is pretty much what we're here for, right?
Orlin nods along, says ruins seems reasonable.
Okay. You head toward the ruins. As you basically head north, kind of like going kind of between that distant encampment. Again, it's like a half mile off. You can't really. Again, it's snowing. There's snow that's blowing in the wind. At this point, you can't tell if it's actually snowing or if this is just snow that was on the ground and on the trees that the wind is just like blowing around. So as you walk past the lake forward, much of the floor of the depression is is strewn with scorched and shattered stone ruins. Some of them appear to be little more than piles of brick and stone. Others do seem to have Others seems to be at least to have some structure that's still at least mostly standing. So you're just kind of like, so you're kind of, and again, there's like, there's like acres of these ruins. I mean, they're not all like right on top of each other. There's like a pile here. There's like, a ruin. There's like, basically a pile of rubble here. There's like a half standing building there. How are you going about poking through the ruins?
I think I'm kind of going through these ruins carefully, checking for, anywhere that's, weak or something that could crumble in on us or something. If I have any thought of, maybe there's a basement or something, I'm checking the stones on the ground, making sure we're not going to get caught up in, stuff, us fall to the floor or something.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say there's, I'm going to say, you as you're walking through, you do find one that looks, perhaps promising. It's, it's a ruin. It's probably about the size of a house. Again, stone. Looks like one of the walls and the ceiling is collapsed, but there's still like three walls that are standing. Maybe there's a little bit of a roof over there, and you can take a little while to poke through it. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and do a hunt roll for us? Get one light die for just poking around, asking questions, and get another light die if you have a skill or a piece of equipment that would help you.
I think as far as that goes, since I was describing it as being careful about it and, looking for weaknesses, whatnot, that maybe the maintenance or repair skill, one of those would.
Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely see that. So yeah, you're poking through. So why don't you go ahead and do a hunt 2? So it's /hunt space 2. Nice. Okay, get a hunt token. And I am rolling on the somethings. I'm rolling. I'm actually rolling. The GM rarely rolls here. The only time the GM rolls is when I'm like rolling on a table. Oops, and that's not how it. Nope. /R.
Can you just do /weak to roll?
I may just do /ruin. Yeah, I was wondering. I wasn't sure if this bot has like standard dice, and I don't think it does.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
I'm going to do a I'm just going to do a ruin roll, which rolls 1d6. So, this isn't actually a ruin roll. Okay. Okay. So yes, so do take a token if you haven't already. You're poking through this ruin, and it's there does not really seem to be a lot in here. But as you are poking around in here, like what are the rest? So as you're poking around in here, what are the rest of you doing?
I think I would have looked for if there was, any building that seemed particularly large or centrally located. Basically, I'm looking for anything that might have any kind of like ritualistic or religious or historical significance in this area. You know,
Okay.
so just something that seems particularly impressive or well preserved or of note.
Got it. So you're just kind of like standing there, like looking around to see if any of these ruins are like bigger or more impressive from where you are. or-
Right. Yeah. Taking a scan of the area and then heading toward whichever one seems to stand out in that way.
Okay. And Orlin, what are you, what are you doing while Kel is poking around this ruin?
Sure. So yeah, Orlin just kind of takes a bit of a, just kind of glances around and looks down at his feet and maybe finds like, a small piece of, like a rock or something that had chipped off some of the rubble here. And I think he picks it up, looks at it from a bunch of different angles, reaches in his pack, pulls out a small length of twine, knots up the end of it into, a few different loops, inserts the little piece of rock, and basically starts using it as a pendulum. Is focused on that, not looking at anything else around him, not really focused on anything else, and is literally just following the pendulum right now.
Cool.
So probably didn't say anything to anyone either, just kind of wandered off.
Nice. And Nevin, what are you doing?
We're in such deep poo. I'm trying to stay roughly halfway between Kel and Ratung, and I'm just trying to look around, see if I can see any obvious tracks or signs of recent movement and stuff.
Okay. So so Kel, you don't actually find anything of interest in this ruin. It looks like if there was anything in here, someone like, maybe other people have looted it, or maybe whoever set this thing. It's clear that it's clear that there had been wood in part of the structure, because you can see the scorching on the stones, that something had lit it on fire at one point in the past. But Nevin, you see kind of like in the scrubby bushes, like off to the side of this ruin that you've been examining. There's some you see some movement like in or behind the bushes, as if maybe something or someone is hiding back there. What do you do?
I'm gonna whistle.
Nevin, like sharp whistle, like you're hailing a cab, or
No, just a tune. Some awful tavern tune, just a whistle, just sing, and just watch it, see if it responds. Or
yeah, I'm gonna say yes. The it like there's a rustling, and you almost see it's kind of hard to tell. It's like a very it's like you think you might see like a pale face that's looking at you from like behind the bushes.
and I'll say you can come out and talk.
So a humanoid figure emerges from the bushes. I'm going to say sort of like that Homer Simpson gif that goes around the Twitter of Larry, but in reverse. But it's not so much. Yeah, it's like this figure just kind of like comes through the bush, and you notice it's like floating maybe a couple of inches above the ground. It's this gaunt and vaguely humanoid figure. It's very tall. It's like maybe 7 feet tall, and it's very, very thin and gaunt and pale. It doesn't look quite human.
You look like a trustworthy adventurer. Would you like to join our party?
It floats over. It stays a few yards off and says, "Hello, humans. You seem out of place in this," and it gestures, "region." It then, it's looking at the rest of you, and I was going to say, so Kel, you definitely hear this. You probably can't. You can stay hidden in the ruin because it doesn't seem to be. You don't have line of sight to it, although if it had been watching you, if whatever it is has been watching you for a while, it may have seen you enter. What do? You seem to be talking to, so Nevin seems to be talking with some kind of like weird looking alien ghost thing. And looking at time, why don't we just go around and why don't you let me know what you intend to do, and then we'll probably call a break and then we'll resolve. Let's go clockwise. Nevin's already, so Nevin's talking. So Orlin, what are you doing now that this ghostly creature has made its appearance?
So I have to imagine I heard this as well.
Everyone, yeah.
Everyone did.
There was no attempt at stealth here, and it wasn't too far. So yes, you could certainly have heard this if you wanted to.
Okay. Can I say that basically I just kind of walk up upon it as if my little pendulum led me to this spot as well?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I think I walk up and I'm standing right beside Nevin, and I haven't even looked up from the pendulum, and then I look up and see this thing that's right there. I basically walked right up to it. My eyes go wide, and I think I just say, "Do you have what I need?" And I'm just trying to talk to it here.
Got it. We'll resolve that after the break. Ratung, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I see this thing kind of emerge, I'm gonna try and duck behind some rubble and pull out my grass and pine needles and start trying to cobble together a scarecrow.
Ooh, okay. Nice. And Kel, what are you doing?
I think I've stopped looking through the ruins or whatever, and I've moved to where I can get a better view of it, but still have a little bit of cover.
Okay. Cool. We will continue with this scene in let's take a 5-minute break. It's just the top of the hour. So I've got 2 minutes after. Why don't we come back at 7 minutes after, and we'll finish this. We'll finish up the scene. Awesome. See you in 5. And we're back. Okay, so so Nevin and Orlin are like right up there, are like right up there with this ghostly figure. Kel is still kind of hiding in the ruins, and Ratung is hiding behind some other bushes, desperately trying to like quickly cobble together a scarecrow. Love it. Question from Jesse in chat, which is what were we sent here to find? You were hired by priests to come here because according to their texts, a demon was rising and was going to, according to the prophecies, was going to enter into the world in this place, which is bad. These priests, these monks are known for their fascination with like the end of the world, and they're not particularly interested in making it occur on any particular timeline. So they said that they wish you to stop the demon from laying waste to the world before the true time comes. They never actually named the demon, but they said one was here. The other 2 bits of information they gave you was the ziggurat in which she is imprisoned is, quote, hidden in another realm, and that, quote, her priests carry keys. Anyway, that was the information. So I think before our commercial break, Orlin was like suddenly realized he was before this strange looking ghostly creature and said something along the lines of, what could you repeat what you said? I want to make sure I remember it correctly.
Do you have what I need? That's what I asked.
The figure looks at you with, and again, this is, there's some color in this creature. It is, it's not really translucent, but it is, it is kind of like muted in color and gray. It's kind of like a grayish, and it's looking at you with kind of like piercing orange eyes. And it says, I don't know. What is it that you need?
I think Orlin maybe looks a little confused and says, the demon rises, Ziggurat.
Oh.
I don't know what I need. That's not how this works. Do you have what I need? I think he basically doesn't know what he needs. He just knows that he's searching for what he needs here.
Okay, cool. So the figure, it takes a couple of steps back, and I mean, it's not like flying through the air. It does seem to be like walking as if it were on the ground, but it is distinctly like a couple of inches off the ground. Takes a couple of steps back, and crosses its arms, tilts his head slightly and says, you seek the demon who is prophesied to rise here. Yes. Yes, I know of her. She is called a coon. I know her quite well, to be honest. You do not appear to me to be her servants. What do you wish? What do you wish of the demon Akun, the world ender?
I think Orlin looks around and is seeing if anyone else is jumping in, but if not, is anyone is Nevin doing anything, or is it?
I think he'll say, we'd like her to not bend the world, just relax, go on vacation, maybe, just chill out for a while and, just not in the world anytime soon, specifically while I'm alive, but, generally not in a hurry.
Orlin nods along.
So you seek to stop her. Very interesting.
I think Orlin says, delay, not stop. She's prophesied to end the world, just perhaps not now.
Well, Akun is, shall we say, hell-bent on entering the world. And he laughs slightly at his little joke. I don't think you'll be able to convince her to adjust her timeline, shall we say? I think you will indeed have to stop her because she is very eager to enter the realm. Or perhaps you could ask her yourself. Perhaps you could ask her yourselves. She may make an appearance.
We would like to meet her. Can you give us directions where we can meet her?
Well, it says, so yes, I can tell you are not indeed her servants because, well, you appear to still be fully human, unlike many of her other servants that you may encounter in this area.
I need to be rude. It's not my fault I'm human.
Well, none of you seem to have the demonic, none of you have seemed to be infused with her demonic energy, which transforms her servants into, shall we say, lesser versions of her.
Well,
You'll know,
you know,
you'll know her priests if you encounter one.
the day is young. We might be able to work out some sort of deal. You know, just point us away. We can find her and have a chat.
Interesting. Interesting. You see, I was her servant at this point, he's kind of like, at this point, he just kind of like gestures for you to follow him. And he just kind of like actually, he gestures you to follow him as he basically starts walking backwards away from you as he talks.
I guess I'll loudly say, I guess we're going this way, hoping the other two are listening.
Orland started walking as soon as the demon started moving. Just didn't even question it.
Got it. Yes, I do know of the demon Akun. I was once quite enamored of her until she revealed her true nature to me. And I rebelled. And she turned me into this. He's he's like walking backwards. And he looks over his shoulder as he walks backwards, still facing you. He seems to be walking toward another ruin, which isn't all that far from the one that you explored. This one has a few trees growing up near it. So you wish to meet the demon Akun. What pray tell will you be asking her should you meet her acquaintance? Simply to not enter the world? For you see, here within the depression, and he gestures kind of grandeur, gestures kind of like with this dramatic gesture. Here within the depression, the veil between the worlds is thin, and she can mostly come and go as she pleases. But she cannot leave this desolate crater. He then glances at that. He then turns up. He then gestures to that like tornado whirlwind thing. Until, of course, that reaches its fulfillment. Her priests are channeling energies to her, sucking energies from this world into the next one to well, I'm not exactly sure how that all works. I'm not a wizard, but it's something that is powering something that will enable her to fully leave her prison. And things will not go so well for living creatures such as yourselves. He's now clearly walking toward another ruin that is more or less still kind of intact. It's got several kind of sickly trees have grown up near it. And as you approach it, it seems to be that there was something in the trees. And now as you approach, you realize what's in the trees. And that is 3 human corpses that are suspended upside down from these trees. They look, they look pale. They look, they look pale. They look dried out. What do you do?
Should we see what Kel and Matung are doing? Or?
Yeah, I was gonna say, probably once it started moving towards that ruin, I tried to move towards it as well, thinking that possibly it's leading them into a trap or something, but tried my best to stay out of sight, which probably isn't that easy as big as I am.
Yeah, there's not a this area is pretty desolate. I mean, there's there. I mean, there are a few scrubby bushes here and there, but the ground is very rocky. There's not a lot of soil here, so the trees
Yeah,
are
I
basically
figured
growing up.
try to move from like ruin to ruin or something, but
Okay, you're kind of like kind of like stealthily like.
attempting it. But like I said, I
Okay.
figure Kell's really not that great at it since he's large and
Got it.
bulky and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah, you can do that. If this creature has noticed you, it doesn't seem to pay you mind. And Ratung, what are you doing? I'm going to say that in this. I mean, I'm going to say that it's several minutes. So if you want to just stay put and like assemble your scarecrow, I'm going to say that you have time to assemble the scarecrow.
Yeah, I would say after I do assemble it, it seems like this thing is not too threatening, at least at the moment. So I think I just like take the arms of like the scarecrow I made and like wrap them around my shoulders. So it's like my scarecrow's like riding on me, piggyback, and I'll just kind of like clamber over the pile of rubble I was behind and follow along behind Nevin and Orlin.
Got it. So meanwhile, back at this, it gets closer to this ruin. It's like, and we have reached my abode. So, you wish an audience with the demon Akun. Very interesting. Very interesting. I might be able to arrange such a thing for a price. You see, I'm starting to get a bit hungry. I'm starting to feel a bit hungry. It's, it looks at the, it looks at the corpses that are hanging there and says, it's been a few days since I've fed.
I'll say these little balls are very tasty, and I'm holding my glass marbles. I'm saying these are delicious. You could try these in return.
That's not what I'm hungry for. At this point, it sticks out its tongue and like licks its lips. But as it sticks out its tongue, that tongue gets longer and longer and longer. It raises it up and it says, oh no, for in this form the only food I take is blood. I won't take all of it, just a taste to prove your intent.
At this point, Kills is like by that ruin and looking for weak spots in it that he might be able to like smack it and cause it to crumble on top of it.
Okay. If you're asking quests, so you're looking for weaknesses in that in its lair. Yeah, absolutely. That's asking questions about the rule. I think that's going to be a hunt roll.
Cool.
So you get a light die from asking questions. Do you have an appropriate skill that you could use?
Yeah, I think again that maintenance repair skill, comes in handy because it's like I'm looking for weak spots.
I think that I think that totally works. Why don't you do a hunt 2? Nice. Okay, take a token. And I'm going to say that sure, there. This. I mean, yeah, it's a ruin and it's stood here for a long time, but yeah, you think there's you definitely see that there's a load bearing stone that much of one wall is pretty much resting on, and you think that if you gave it a really good solid whack with a hammer, that would probably cause that wall to collapse, which would probably cause the rest of the walls to collapse.
Yeah, I think I'm waiting to see if this thing's really going to do anything or what the others are going to do, because I don't want it to collapse on them. So I'm kind of waiting for the opportune moment if needed.
Yeah, he hasn't actually entered this. He's kind of standing in front of it, as is everybody else right now. And so he's standing there with this like impossibly long tongue. I mean, we're talking this thing's like, at this point, this tongue is like 5 feet long. And even though he's talking with his tongue lolling out, it doesn't seem to be affecting his speech at all. You're not quite sure how that works. But he says, I could arrange a meeting, or perhaps even give you some insight into what she fears in exchange for a taste. It grins.
Nevin, you murdered a man earlier today. Do you reckon he has any blood in him?
Oh, if it's already dead, that tastes foul.
But I think there must be more. We could bring you a live one.
Again, he says, I won't take much, just a taste, again, to prove your intent. I assure you that the information I will grant you is valuable. I could tell you I could tell you many of her secrets.
How old are you? You seem quite knowledgeable.
Oh, I have lost track of the years, but I have been in this place for millennia.
So you must know much of Old Kaldur.
Old Kaldur. Now that is a name I have not heard in a long, long time. Yes, I know of Old Kaldur. I spent many a years there a long time ago. Why do you ask of Old Kaldur? And what does that have to do with your current quest?
Nothing in particular. You might just say it's a scholarly interest. But if you would have a taste of your humble servant Ratung, perhaps I would allow you an extra portion if you were able to afford me any relics or information of the old Kaldurians.
An interesting proposition. I shall take you up on that. It beckons. Step a bit closer.
I'll kind of like turn and like look at you guys and give you guys like a nervous grin and like a thumbs up, and then step closer.
Okay. So yeah, if you're not going to object, this creature, who by the way you haven't asked his name yet, this creature like reaches out with his like impossibly long tongue and kind of like wraps it around your shoulders, and the end of it it places on the side of your neck, and you feel a pinprick in your neck, and the creature says, the creature says, "Ah, yes, very nice, very, very nice." And Ratung, you feel, Ratung, you feel slightly weakened. I am going to give you, I'm going to give you the condition, blood drained. I don't know what that means yet. We'll figure it out. Yeah, it's you know, you feel pressure. You first you feel the pinprick, and then you feel this thing on your neck. It almost, it almost feels like it's giving you a hickey. But you do feel it. It's definitely draining some of your blood, but just for maybe a minute, and then it releases you. Thank you. It's been a long time since I've had someone who was willing to give me sustenance. It tastes so much better.
Well.
What did you wish to know? What did you wish to know of Akun? I will tell you what I know.
Well, you said that you were once very close with this Akun. Who are you, and what was the nature of your relationship with this demon?
I am called Sarku. I was once her chief lieutenant when she lived on the world, posing as one of the great queens of old. In the court of old Kaldor, I should say. But she was a crafty one, always up to her machinations. Ultimately, she'd wanted to start a war that would end the world. And then she made her true self, her true nature apparent. She was not a queen at all. She'd killed the queen, taken her place. And still I followed her until I realized that her true intent was to end all things. And I rebelled. And she turned me into this ghostly shell of a self. I could barely feel anything. I'm not fully substantial. I'm not fully of this world, but I'm not fully of the next either. Be warned, should you encounter the demon Akun, she will make you promises that she has no intention of keeping. Unlike me, I am a very honorable person, or was a very honorable person. I still have my honor. For you see, deep within her realm, deep within her ziggurat, it was a prison, you see, that she was encased in around the time that old Kaldor fell. To keep her away from this world, she is imprisoned in the death realm. She is not truly alive, but in the basement, in the chambers below the ziggurat, that is where she keeps her heart, which once was in her chest, but is now part of the ziggurat, which is in some spiritual sense part of her. Should you slay the demon Akun, she will simply immediately reform beside her heart, and will then exact terrible vengeance upon that who slayed her. However, should you find her heart, it is practically defenseless. You just have to get past its guardians. Destroy the heart, you destroy Akun, and the world will be the better place for it, and I shall finally be able to move on to the next realm. Indeed, I pray that you would slay the demon Akun. I've tired of this existence, and that is the only way I can move on.
Well, it seems as though you have every motivation to give us all the help that you can.
Yes, I am actually part of the curse is that I am powerless to raise I'm powerless to raise any act of violence upon Akun or her followers. I don't know much what help I'll be able to give you other than this information, but I pray that this information I have given you shall give you quite an edge. For I have just given you the secret of how to destroy her.
Where is the ziggurat from here? Where do we go from here?
Hmm.
And I'm kind of gesturing towards the ruins.
Right. Well, he does gesture toward toward that swirling whirlwind, and he says, the ziggurat is there at the vertex of that cloud. However, the ziggurat is in the death realm. We are in the realm of the living. You must cross over to the death realm in order to actually find her heart so that you could destroy it. I do not have a key to get in there. However, many of her servants do. It is in the form of an amulet. Those who wear the amulet can cross through the gate into the death realm. There is a necropolis there's a necropolis that exists both in this world and both in this realm and the next realm simultaneously. There's a brass gate in the necropolis that will lead you into the death realm. From there, you will be on your own.
Where is the necropolis from here?
Well, where are you to walk toward that? Were you to walk toward that whirlwind, you would come across the necropolis first.
All right, I back away. And you've been very helpful. Thank you.
You said that you live here, Sarku?
I do.
Well,
I mean, I am imprisoned, much like Akun herself. I am imprisoned within this crater. Some call it a depression, which is frankly a better word for it because that's how I feel. But yes, I mostly reside here. It's not much, but it is what it is.
Well, I mean, such an ancient and wise being as yourself must have something of use to us in your abode. You wouldn't mind if we took a look around, would you? After all, I was.
Well, I've given you information. I have no weapons against her, if that's what you're asking.
I think I chime in and Orlin asks and points up that the bodies are hanging in the trees, right? You said in a tree there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I think I point to them and say, are you done with them?
Yes, they're of no use to me anymore. Why do you ask?
I think I just start walking over and start slowly climbing the tree.
Okay. What are you intend? Okay, yeah, you totally climb the tree.
If I'm allowed to do so, and I get up there, I just start plucking the teeth out of the heads of the bodies there.
Okay. Are you just collecting souvenirs, or do you have any intent beyond that?
I'm adding them to a little pouch I have.
Yeah, okay. You can certainly extract the teeth from these. You can certainly extract the teeth from these suspended corpses.
Yeah, he's not making a big deal out of it or a big show of it. He just kind of is up there doing it, if that's all right.
Got it. you know, I'm going to say that you might be able to find something here. I'm going to we'll go ahead and call this a hunt roll. So you get one for asking questions and poking around, and yeah, this is kind of poking around. So,
Okay.
and if you have a skill or a piece of equipment that is that you're using to help you here, you can get a second one.
Trying to think. Well, I absolutely will intend. I mean, I guess I'm using these with the intent of using them for oracular moments here. So, I mean, I guess my skills in rituals and trances, it would be associated with those, but I don't know if that counts, since that's what I would use them for, not how I'm looking for them.
You know, I'm going to allow that. Go ahead and do a hunt too.
Okay. All right.
Nice. Okay,
4.
take okay, excellent. Yeah, go ahead and take a token. Something terrible. Sarku looks at you. Sarku looks at you. You know, with a quizzical look. Just kind of shakes his head, says, you know, capturing prey for food is one thing, but what are you doing?
I think I just look back and I say, tools of the trade for finding things or learning things.
Well, I did say that they are of no use to me. You are an odd one.
I think that's the first time we see Orland smile, and I don't think he says anything about it, just smiles like big about it.
I'm looking at the time, and that actually seems like a good place to, this seems like a good scene to end on. Yeah, this is so I think we're going to end play here, and we'll pick it up here next time. We've got a little time left. I like to do a little. I always like to end a little early, so we can do a little debrief session. I kind of like a tool called Stars and Wishes. So with stars, if you want to point out particularly fun things that you thought some of the other players did, those are a star. After you do those, a wish is something that you'd like to see for next time. So I'm just going to do just kind of a general star, like everyone. First session of a new group. I thought this went really, really well. Jesse, I really like how you're how like Orland is like really kind of weird. I'm really looking forward to see how that plays out. So yeah, thank you for bringing the weird. Thank you for bringing the weird. That was really cool and really fun.
It's not his fault. Don't worry.
Okay. Tim, thank you for letting Ratung be Ratung. As usual, I always really love seeing what you do with that character. Blake, yeah, throwing the cultist off the cliff. That was awesome.
Yeah. He was asking for it.
Yeah, he was a jerk. He was crazy. He deserved it.
Yeah, this cliff's only big enough for one jerk.
And Josh, thank you for getting into this. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what your I'm really curious to see how Kel's personality develops, and and
he's
how
our
things go.
token normal guy. He's the one
That's kind of what I was thinking. You're like exactly. You're like the token straight man in comedy. Everybody else is
he's
really
kind of
weird.
he's kind of the one that's like straightforward, like, let's just deal with this, no messing around.
We came here to do the thing. Let's do the thing. Nice. In general, wishes. I mean, for next time, I just want to see more of this. I think I really like these characters, and I want to see what makes them tick. Next time, I'm going to try to, maybe we'll have some, maybe we'll have some downtime so that we can delve into these characters' backstories a little bit, and find out a little more about their drive and what makes them tick, or not. We'll see what happens. That's what play to find out means. Anyone else like to say anything in conclusion, or do a stars and wish?
As far as wishes go, I'm excited to see Kel bring a building down or something like that. Like, I feel like we're getting like, those nice little moments of like, this could happen here. I know not this time, but like I feel like it's destined to happen in some big fun way.
Yeah, I feel like Kel is, always looking for those weak spots.
I love it.
I love it too. That's great.
Yeah, I've got a solid idea of everyone's character. That's all cool. I'd love to see how Orland's going to bring in the wind chimes. I'm just like, okay, here's a narrative challenge for you. Bring it on.
I have no idea yet, so we'll see. Yeah.
With a monstrous wooden mask.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that stuff yet. That's going to occupy my brain for the week. Oh, also, stars for Nevin claiming to be Ratung immediately upon encountering someone we don't know. I just love that so much.
That was great. That was great.
I think if there's a fair chance for a fight, and if not, I can just say, we're all Ratung. We are the clan Ratung or something. Yeah.
And I am Spartacus moment.
I think 1 star is just enjoyed everyone's characters, and like Orland's the most interesting one. I want to figure out what's going on with. But and then as far as wishes, just let's get into it and see what happens.
Cool. Oh, and one thing I did want to say I meant to mention before we went to stars and wishes. You found Sarku's lair, and you found the information that he was going to give you. So, because when when I went to roll, discoveries when I went to roll that, you discovered something terrible in the ruin. There is a table there, and 5 was Sarku observing curiously.
Nice.
Perfect.
Nice. That's what you call failing forward, right? Yeah, Star, I really liked Mike. There were some times where we were like split up, and I thought you did a really nice job like cutting between us and kind of letting us all establish what we were doing. I thought that was really nice. And then, and then eventually bringing us back together. So that was really fun. And Josh and Jesse, thanks for joining. It was really enjoyable to play with you guys. And all of you, Blake and Mike, I've been enjoying playing with you, and now I really enjoyed playing with you, Josh and Jesse. So thank you for joining us. And I would just second the wishes. Just looking forward to seeing what comes next. I think we need to find more treasure. So I'm wishing to find more treasure. Although some of you guys have what? Kel has 3 tokens. Okay,
yeah,
that's okay.
Some of you have a lot of tokens, so you can start. Yeah, I mean, at any time you can trade those tokens in for treasure.
That's my wish. My wish is to see what treasure we find, because finding treasure is it's what trophies are all about. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. And there is some cool treasure to be found in this incursion.
I was just imagining Orland going through the bodies in the tree, and he's sort of shaking them, and there's this jewelry and stuff raining down from them.
Well, that was absolutely possible if you because you got a token if you wanted to immediately turn that into a treasure. You could say that, oh yeah, well this this guy was wearing a, this guy was wearing a gold ring, so I'm going to slip that off. Or you're pulling his teeth out. Like, oh, 3 of those teeth had gold fillings. All right. Well, gentlemen, I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to next week, where we'll pick it up right here, and we'll see where things take us. So I am going to
end. Good fun.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm going to end the recording. So good night, everyone.